Hello! Okay, so today I will talk a little bit more about my Red District story. And please enjoy my video. And the gameplay, I will be building the start of like a pathway leading to a castle. I want to build a castle and some sort of kingdom in this world. So it's a new Minecraft world. I wanna do something with it. And hopefully have a really nice kingdom by maybe the end of next year. But yeah, hello, nice to see you. My name is Xynzini, and I hope you enjoy. Editor Xynzini here. If you haven't noticed, this is one of the daytime recorded videos where I will be a little bit louder. But I do hope I still have that comfy feeling to the video that I hopefully normally do. But thank you. Please enjoy. Continue. So I will go into depth about like some of the characters and a little bit of the history of my story that I've gotten down. So I talked about two characters last video: Bingo, the main boy, and what was her name? Savina, the well, she's not the main girl, but like she is introduced as one of the main antagonists early on to the story. There is one major event that I have set in this world, and it's called the Dusk War. And the overview is: the first war between wielders and non-wielders was fought a century ago, which caused the creation of Red District. I'm I'm thinking of changing Red District to Ruby District because of Articus, who brought it to my attention because Jade District, Amber District, Red District, Ruby District sounds a lot cooler. So I might change it to Ruby District. But anyway, so let me restart. The Dusk War was the first war between wielders. Oh, the first war between wielders and non-wielders was fought a century ago, which caused the creation of Red District, which was created to contain all wielders within. It's called the Dusk War because it began at dusk and ended at dusk the same day 5 years later. There were many casualties, and that is the sole event that made the world what it is. Like Ruby District, Amber District, Jade District, none of that existed until this war, and then they had to, these guys are dangerous. Let's lock them all up in there. Keep them where we can see them, pretty much. And then like the secondary protagonist, or like Bingo's best friend, her name is Evelia Virides. Her nickname is the girl that gods fear. I thought that was cool. Her overview is: she's a close friend of Bingo, able to manipulate the wind. She's proficient at using a katana, which she thought would be cool to use, but she's actually a master archer, having practiced since she was a child. She's able to hit targets in the hand while they're in moving vehicles. She imbues her arrows with her powers, allowing them to travel faster and farther, and even pierce concrete. And alongside her is the leader of Libertia. Her name is Sierra Makato. She is Bingo's older sister, and she's nicknamed the Fearless One. But she doesn't. I don't plan to keep her in the story long. She's there to die pretty much, because her death is what puts Bingo on his path to be like, okay, yeah, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta make sure there's peace, nobody else will die. I lost her, and I don't want to lose anyone else. So that her death brings him into that mindset. Because I feel like, most stories, of course not every story, because if every story has like a character related to or close to the main character who dies, it gets kind of bland and it gets kind of boring, and you could probably kind of probably predict what's gonna happen to them. But I thought like having someone that close to them, being pretty much a parental figure or a older sister, older brother, older cousin, or even a best friend. I feel like having a character like that, that the main character looks up to, and having that character die tragically somehow, or maybe not tragically, but die somehow, would it's I feel like it's a good way to push your main character to do the things that they need to do throughout the story for the story, you know? But of course, like I said, if if every story has a character like that who dies to push the main character to do something, it gets really boring and really repetitive really fast. And, although it's good to take inspiration from stuff, I don't think, like, making. Let's say that you're an author and you have 20 books. I don't think having a character close to your main character who dies to push the main character to get something done in the story in every single one of those books is a good idea. Of course, maybe the way you portray it could work, but I I'm not saying it's bad, but I think it could get to a point where the reader would be like, "Oh yeah, well this person's gonna die. Oh, haha, who would have thought they're dead?" But at the same time, it could also be like "Oh, this author is notorious for doing that. So this character, who's close to the main character, has a high chance of dying. So I better watch out and worry for that character." So it could be a good and bad thing, like people would know you for it, but people might also predict it, and that could depending that could probably get kind of boring, but that's just me, and that's the way I think. But let me go back to there is countless characters, and I'm going to introduce another faction, a wielder faction, that isn't quite as big or important as Fury or Libertia. And although they are, well, of course, I didn't start writing, but I did have ideas for what I want these like characters to do, where they're from, what the like history of their factions are. Although I didn't start writing the story, I did get those down, so I have something to go off of. But this faction, they're called Bayless, Balyss. And, of course, like I mentioned, they're not as impactful to the story as the other two wielder factions, the bigger, the most well-known wielder factions in this world. They are not really a fighter organization. Like, they want to live in peace, but they don't want to get involved with any of the drama. They act more as a safe haven than an actual like rebellion like the other two are. But early on into the story, I had this idea where Bingo and Evelia were watching TV. This is how I wanted to start the story. It's been on my mind. Bingo and Evelia were watching TV, and they see on the news, breaking news, that the JDSF, the Jade District Security Force, were doing their rounds in Red District, making sure people are, compliant to Amber and Jade, not like stepping out of line, keeping an eye on the organizations and the people there, so they don't, one day wake up and suddenly there's wielders at their front door, burning down the walls, taking control of everything. They're trying to make sure they stay in line. But they see the breaking news report saying that the JDSF have caused the deaths of several innocent wielders from Bayless. And that's when they're kind of like, oh, okay, we got to get this, we got to do something about this. If this is how things are going to go, if they're going to start killing the innocent wielders, the ones who don't want to rebel, then we gotta step up and do something to make sure this doesn't happen again. That's their kind of, that's their mindset. That's what they start thinking afterwards. And I plan to have Bingo and Evelia clash heads, like Evelia going, "Oh, let's kill them in return," and Bingo going, "No, because if we kill them for killing them, we're not going to be any better. And there's going to be someone else that wants to kill us. And when they kill us, someone's going to want to kill them. And the cycle will repeat endlessly. And then, he finally sways Avelia and she's like, okay, let's go about things your way. you know? But I thought of Bayless being the center of a bunch of these. Like, instead of the rebellions getting attacked by the JDSF, they're not going to be like, oh, let's attack those guys. They're actively trying to rebel. They're going to be like, let's make an example out of these ones. That way, if we make an example out of these ones, those two will eventually step in line. So Bayless is kind of like a faction that is doomed to die. But I did want them to merge with Libertia because eventually their ideals align. But Bayless has this one guardian. Like I said, they're a safe haven. So, but they've got to at least have one person protecting them. You can't be a safe haven without someone making sure it's safe. But this guy's name is Vandal Basque. He eventually gains the title the Guardian of Libertia. He's a young man who lived within Bayless, which was, I already explained all of this. A small town of people who align with Libertia's ideas but refuse to really take action, acting as a safe haven for wielders. Yeah, so he's pretty much the guardian of that place. And his power is pretty cool. So I didn't, for the power wise, their abilities, I didn't think of like stereotypical superhero stuff like fire, flight, X-ray vision, heat ray, heat vision eyes, laser eyes, frost powers. I already said fire powers. Able to control earth, nothing like that. I was thinking of sort of like MHA where they have a bunch of abilities. Vandal, his ability is he can enhance his physical strength, but at the expense of stamina. For example, let's say he wanted to do a devastating punch to take out one terrifying enemy. If he lands that blow and exerts all his strength in that one punch, he's probably going to be taken out of the fight because of exhaustion. That one devastating blow can tire him out instantly. So it's like I did want to think of drawbacks because, you can't have something overpowered and not have a drawback. So, well, I'm still thinking about drawbacks for like people like Valor. Did I mention Bingo's power? He can control ice. I still have to think about drawbacks for powers like that. But I think in these stories, when the character's power has a drawback, it's perfect. You have to balance it out. If you don't have a drawback for such an amazing ability, no matter what the ability is, then the story can get a little bit bland. Because if everyone is overpowered, what's gonna happen next? Like, where is it gonna take you? I can see how stories like that can work. I'm not saying they won't work. It really depends on the writer. With everything, like, it could be like the most terrible, hideous, disgusting idea imaginable, but the story could work if the writer knows how to write. If he knows how to put his idea on paper, that terrible idea could turn into something brilliant. So even if I think a story where people with powers have no drawbacks whatsoever is bad, there are definitely stories out there just like that, with powers with no drawbacks, and it's probably a really good story. So it all depends on the writer at the end of the day. But I wanted to have drawbacks because I feel like it's more grounded and it kind of makes sense, because I like balance. You can't have too much of one thing and too little of another thing because the scales are uneven. It's not gonna make any sense. It's not gonna be balanced. I wanted to balance it out some way. So most of these characters, I did think about drawbacks. I still got to think about some. For example, there's a character in the story who can turn everything into emerald. His drawback is he just can't touch himself. That sounds wrong. His power never turns off. Like, no matter what he touches, that turns into emeralds. So, kind of like the Midas touch, but I put my own spin on it where everything turns into emerald instead. Because I thought that was cool. I didn't want to copy gold. I wanted to change it a little bit. But yeah, so his biggest drawback is just make sure you don't touch yourself or your comrades, and you'll be A-okay. But there are brilliant minds in this story. Not mine. Not me. I don't have a good mind like this. I don't know how to create something like that. But there are people in this story who can create things that nullify wielder powers to an extent. So he does have gloves to allow him to, touch stuff without turning them into emeralds. So long as he's wearing the gloves. If he's not wearing the gloves, it's going to turn into emeralds. Because if everything you touch turns into emeralds, how are you going to drink water? you know? But yeah, I put a lot of thought into like the power system, how these powers work, the drawbacks. That makes sense. You can't have like super strength, but his drawback is he breaks his bone. Actually, no, that makes sense. It kind of makes sense to an extent. Let me think of a terrible example. 1 second. You can't have someone's like power be I can control ice, but I can't breathe when I do it. I could see how that works. Like maybe you freeze the air around you and that air becomes hard to breathe. But it's a little too ooh. Like I don't know. To me that's just a little overkill. You get it? In my opinion, the drawback has to not, it has to balance it out. It can't be too extreme or not too extreme. It has to be just in the center. I'm not saying that I got it perfect. I am saying I think I got it decent. But the last thing I will talk about is this character who is known as the traitorous wielder. His name is Ace Burrows. He's a wielder who's pledged his life to the GAC, the government of Amber Capital, working as an elite of the JDSF to eliminate wielders who step out of line. The rebellions, Fury and Libertia. Well, I mean, there are other rebellions, but I think I mentioned that, but like they didn't make it too far. Like the biggest ones are Fury and Libertia. But yeah, so he eliminates wielders who step out of line, but he's a wielder himself. And he's a wielder whose ability allows him to create any object he's ever touched and seen out of thin air, making him useful for creating wielder cables and cuffs. Wielder cables and wielder cuffs are just things that nullify wielder powers. Like nullifies the powers so well. They're not really considered wielders once it's on. Once you get the cuff on, that's it. Their powers are subdued. They are normal humans. They cannot use anything, any abilities. With some exceptions. But I don't really want to go into depth of that right now in this video. Maybe next video. But yeah. But the purpose of him working for Amber and Jade District is actually so he can protect his own family. He provides the non-wielders, the government of Amber Capital and the JDSF, with wielder cables, wielder cuffs, anti-wielder things, in exchange for his family's safety. So I like having characters in like the gray area. I don't know if he sounds like he's in the gray area. I like having characters like that where they do something bad, but for a good reason. Like someone they love, someone they care about is being held at gunpoint pretty much. I thought it was cool. And he's got to be one of my favorite characters. Even though I haven't even started writing the story, I don't even know how his personality is going to be. I don't know how anyone's personality is going to be except for Bingo, Savina, and Evalia, which I will go into more detail later. I think I should just have like a separate video of character analysis and stuff. But that will be all for today. That's all I'll be talking about for today. Please, if you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and subscribe to me. I'd really appreciate it. And please follow me on Twitch and TikTok. I almost forgot what those apps were called. But my name is Xynzini, and it's nice to meet you. And my Twitch and TikTok are both Xynzini, Xynzini. Xynzini. I'd really appreciate it if you check me out there too. And check out my other videos. Maybe you'd like them if you like this one. But have a good rest of your day or a good night, depending on whatever time it is for you. Make sure you eat, make sure you drink water, and make sure you rest well, because all of that's important for you to stay healthy. And it'd mean a lot for me if you stayed healthy. Please, if you made it this far, please let me know if you like the idea of Bayless being a safe haven, or if you want them to be a little bit more like a competition, like maybe a mix of both Libertia and Fury together, like combined. And let me know if there's anything you think I can add or tweak, whether it be names, maybe give me ability ideas for wielders, give me anti-wielder ideas, like things that could help maybe against someone who can make themselves indestructible, you know. Please let me know if there's anything you'd like me to add or think about. I'm very open to suggestions. I didn't even start writing the story yet, so you know. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week, Wednesday. Bye bye, and take care.